Rugby on Off the Ball.
With Vodafone, official sponsors of the Irish rugby team. We all belong to the team of us.
Now then, returning to New Zealand 12, Ireland 23 in Dunedin yesterday. Just fourth win for Ireland against New Zealand, but of course first on Kiwi soil. That makes it 4 wins in the last 7, incidentally, against New Zealand. So the Maoris on Tuesday, and then Wellington for Test 3 next Saturday. Very happy to say Ronan O'Gara is with us on the line. Hello.
Joe, how are you doing?
First time, by the way, I've spoken to you on air since La Rochelle did their thing, so big congratulations. Amazing achievement. I presume you're taking some time to reflect on it and enjoying it and tell yourself what a great fella you are and all that kind of stuff.
That's on to the next thing now. I think people in Ireland will struggle to understand in the fact that usually the end of the rugby calendar is the European Cup final, but for us it was we had a domestic game the following week, Leon away, which we managed to win, and then we needed to win that game to get into the top 6. And as a result of that, we went to Toulouse, and we were poor in the game against Toulouse, certainly in the first half. But then, we gave them too much of a lead, and we got beaten by 5 points in the end. So it's kind of good in one way from a coaching point of view that you're finishing on a defeat, so it makes pre-season a little bit more focused as opposed to the hullabaloo that went on after a European Cup final. But a fantastic season. It was hugely enjoyable. I think that 5 minutes as a coach after the final whistle in Marseille will live with me for a long time. So it was hugely rewarding. But
Good man.
As you know, the show goes on, and looking forward to the season.
So 4 wins in 7 against New Zealand, the first on Kiwi soil. These are things, honestly, I thought we would just never be saying about an Irish team. It is an extraordinary achievement in many ways, the last couple of years, and not least yesterday.
Yeah, but then the other side of it, why not, Joe? You can see the progress for a number of years. And I think the way the game is going and how you know your opposition, these things should be happening. And I suppose the thing that strikes me after yesterday, within 2 minutes of the game, you could see that Ireland are going to win this game. I think when you look at the final scoreline, you scratch your head a little bit in the fact that with the quality that was in the green jerseys and the way the game was panning out, you felt Ireland should be an awful lot more ahead of these guys. But that's not to obviously disrespect what they did. They created history. It was a very measured performance, but at no stage watching the game that I feel that the result was in any doubt, and that's the biggest compliment you could probably give this team. I think the intent was there, and it seemed, watching it from a neutral's point of view, from an outsider's point of view, that Ireland have this.
Yeah. What were the big differences for you from Test 1?
I suppose just, you talk about tiny margins at Test level, but the minute, I suppose, like kick-off receipt at the start of the game, Ireland exited Gibson Park, a great kick to the 50, but just, I suppose, the kind of the intent and the carry, Ireland looked hurt, stung by what they did in Eden Park, and rightly so. Ireland were, I thought, particularly off that day, and that happens when you give a team like New Zealand so many points that it's very hard to get your way back into the game. But what Ireland did this Saturday was, I think they were very accurate, and I think they held the ball and they put this New Zealand team under pressure. And I think it's a New Zealand team that is very unsure of themselves, very unproven, with an awful lot of players that are, for me, not proven at Super Rugby level. It's like, I think there's a responsibility sometimes with players when they're coming in, but like some guys that played yesterday, and I would know a fair bit about them, would be a season or two into Super Rugby, that isn't really an indicator for thriving at test level. And you could, Lester Fanganuku, who will be a fantastic rugby player, but he learned the hard way yesterday what test rugby is about. I don't think you'll see him again in this series, and that's tough on a young guy. But I think Johnny was as good as I've ever seen him yesterday, I thought. I think his intelligence in manipulating the New Zealand backline was very evident. And when he's in that kind of form, it creates problems for the opposition. And
it just goes to show, doesn't it? We've had a lot of conversations about Ireland's lack of depth in certain positions, but if Ireland's best players are fit and they're in the mood, and Johnny's on the pitch and in that kind of mood, then they're just a match for anyone on their day.
Yeah, correct. But as you know, for winning that World Cup, they've got to do that Saturday, which becomes very difficult if you're not sharing the load at 37 years of age. So ideally, you need someone stepping in there that can do an adequate job. But at the minute, we don't have that.
Yes.
It was Johnny going 72 yesterday, but there's still that nervousness from my point of view when he's not, I suppose, running the show. But there was a lot of big games from an awful lot of the leaders yesterday, which wasn't the case the Saturday previously. So this Saturday, New Zealand are hurting, and it makes for a cracking third test.
There was a moment early on at the breakdown, which had been much discussed, by the way, after Test 1, New Zealand's dominance really at the breakdown in Test 1. There was a moment early on where Dalton Papali'i was pinged for, I think, going a bit beyond the ruck. So Ireland seemed to do much better at the breakdown in Test 2. Was that because it was reffed differently in your eye, or did Ireland pay more attention to it and get to grips with what New Zealand were trying to do?
I think there's a little bit of both. I think that's what skilled coaches do during the week. They understand what pictures the future referee is looking for. And if we do it like this, I hope this is what we get from you. And once you have consistency in that area, and it's very difficult because it's live sport with a lot of moving parts, you could see most definitely, for me, probably with an eye on coaching, that there was some definite, I suppose, trends that Jakob Peiper was aware of from both management teams, and it was reffed accordingly. But that was obvious that Dalton Papali'i won in the fact that you can't tackle like that around the rock that far. So I think in the first test, it was probably a bit of a free-for-all. And that's not having a go at Dixon. I just think that yesterday you could see that it was far more patrolled, and two teams were probably officiated on a neutral level.
I mean, the real head-scratcher in this game, and the worry, I suppose, in the game, was at half-time when somehow Ireland were only 3 points to the good. They had been looking to go 17-0 up, and then Lowe dropped the ball when it was 6v4 effectively in the backs, and then New Zealand go up and score just before the break, and it's 10-7 at half-time. I mean, if there's a period that the Irish team will review and be critical, self-critical of, it's probably that period. I would put it to you, that they go in only 3 points to the good and only 10 points on the board after that first 40.
I would say that was incredibly frustrating. Either from a player's point of view or from a coaching point of view, the fact that, as you say, complete dominance, a lot of decisions about kick to the corner or take your 3 points, and obviously you have a lead, just keep the scoreboard ticking. But at 10-0, as you said, there was probably a hat-trick of opportunities to get to 17. 0, which is a completely different game. And then New Zealand probably didn't have much possession, and the Bowden Barrett nutmeg of Andrew Porter, like the sequence of events that lead to a try in 10-7, it just gives all the energy to New Zealand, and Ireland have to completely start again. And then obviously James Ryan is sin bin. It's 14 against 14. It's New Zealand at home. It's easy for all these doubts to come back into your head, but I think Ireland reset, and they were mentally very impressive for the second 40. There was times, obviously, again later in the game where, a little bit of more accuracy. You'd think of the pass from low left to right, where he hit the man in the crowd with a missed pass. Just probably picking off defenders there, and Ireland hold the ball and they build another phase. I think when they review it, probably today, they'll say, yeah, I think we left a few tries out there, boys.
Jakob Piper was busy. It was extraordinary in that first half. So the penalty try that wasn't the ring rose tackle. There was the high hit on Mac Hansen, the Fanga Wanku yellow card. There's the red card, which I don't think anyone has any qualms with. And then there was the question mark over whether he should have reduced New Zealand to 12 players when scrums went uncontested, a la Italy in the Six Nations. Which of those decisions did you think he didn't get right?
For me, the Leicester Fanganuku is a red card.
Yeah.
The pass back inside when who was tackled? Ringrose. No, it was Ringrose.
Yeah.
That's for me is a penalty try, yellow card. With the way the game is refereed nowadays, people have issues understanding. But like when you're in the game on the inside, all this is explained to you. You can't have much grievance with this. This is what the rule book says nowadays. So that, I think Ireland were probably on the negative side of a lot of those decisions. Other than that, I think what was the third question you asked? Sorry, Joe.
Well, I think the red card everyone's happy with. And then there was the question mark over whether they should have went to 12 players when they went uncontested scrums. Happened to Italy in the Six Nations. It wasn't, I guess it's not a major factor now that Ireland have won, but it was certainly a point made.
Yeah, but I suppose, and I'm meant to be up to speed with all of these rules and things. I think, along with the TMO or the referee on the game day, someone probably needs to have this rule as a matter of urgency in the test game, because it is very, very, I suppose, easy to lose the plot in the fact that, a red card and then a yellow card and then an injury or a yellow card to a front row forward. The rules are different about how you are impacted. So you need someone calm probably, because you could see the other example of it where, the New Zealanders, I think they made, it looked from the outside, made an error in terms of substituting Papali instead of Savea, but they wrote down number 8 on their card sheet, which meant that Savea could not re-enter into the game, which I would think from an experience point of view, they wanted to keep Savea on the pitch.
And as the coach here, when you were watching Savea go off, did you think, oh, lads, he can't come back on? I wouldn't do that.
Oh, God, yeah, straight away. It was like, the minute he crosses the whitewash to go, it's done.
Right. That's pressure, isn't it? Like, Foster's under a lot of pressure now, and that I was having a look at the New Zealand press, and that certainly has been used as one of the many sticks to beat him with. He is... do you suspect, from what your sense of New Zealand rugby is, if he was to lose this series, could that be the end of his tenure?
Oh, I think there would be uproar in the fact that obviously, especially the way the first test went, but in their history, in their psyche, Ireland winning a test series in New Zealand, this shouldn't happen. But I think there's huge respect for Irish rugby, but I would suppose it's the cumulative effect of what has happened on the Northern Hemisphere tour, backed up by if it was to be a series loss. When you go back through the history of their game and their test team, it wouldn't be a nice situation for Ian Foster to be in, and where they absolutely love their rugby, he would be completely under the pump. Yeah,
big time. 1994, the last time they lost a series on home soil. So when I said to you at the top, it's hard to have imagined we'd been saying things like Ireland winning on New Zealand soil, or certainly 4 wins in 7. I suppose in part that's because you're thinking of the great New Zealand teams, and you referenced it, that this New Zealand team, this is not the New Zealand team of 2005. This is not the World Cup winning editions of New Zealand that we're seeing here. There's a real sense now that they're there for the taking. So assuming Sexton is fit, assuming O'Mahony is fit, and I think there's more of a doubt over O'Mahony, but assuming all the big guns are fit, it's hard to think of Ireland having a better opportunity than this to win a series in New Zealand. You don't want to say they're there for the taking, but geez, they're as there as New Zealand will ever be.
I would say by a long shot. You compare probably what we, remember most. You look at a midfield of Carter, Nanu, and Conrad Smith. Probably over 300 caps between them. This New Zealand team, and you look at the replacement bench, is completely inexperienced. It's inexperienced in terms of, I suppose, playing test games. Obviously, Sam Whitelock was a huge loss for them yesterday, but they have Retallick and they have Scott Barrett, experience. There's Sam Kane experience. Artie Sevilla he did play, but he didn't play yesterday. Dalton Papali'a is a rookie. Cody Taylor is experienced, but without Joe Moody, Owen Franks, I think, has never been replaced. You have Nipo Laulala maybe potentially coming back on tight head. But in the back line, Aaron Smith, there's Bowden Barrett. But Bowden Barrett has never, I suppose, kind of from a goal kicking point of view, I suppose, rubber stamped his position at the 10. Who are they going to play? 12, 13, 11? 15, and I think they play Sevu Reece. So there's huge, I suppose, debate about who should be in their team. With the New Zealand teams all down through the decades, there was probably certainty, and everyone throughout the world knew exactly who was playing. But in this group or a squad they have, it's very hard to call. And you look at Irish rugby and you look at Leinster, they're been so impressive and the dominant force, and there's 12 or 13 of them that are the backbone of the Irish team. When you look at what Scott Robertson has done with, I think, winning the Super Rugby for 6 years in a row, and I think there was probably 6 starters from only the Crusaders yesterday, and 1 or 2 sprinkled among the replacements. So it seems to be that there's a lot of New Zealand players that have no silverware at club level, yet because they're in a black jersey, you expect different things from them. But yes, you look at the analysis and the accurate analysis of them, there's absolutely no reason why. You're not talking about, the South African team that won a World Cup or that have, I suppose, done a lot of things in the international game. Yeah.
64 minutes, Herring comes on, Bealham comes on, Cian Healy comes on. I presume you were pleased to see that. That just has to start to become the norm for Ireland. We can't have, I presume, our props playing into the 70-something minutes too regularly, or if at all.
And they'll get huge confidence. I think, one of the lasting memories too of yesterday is Finlay Bealham, Herring and Cian Healy, and the scrum going forward 6-7 metres. Yeah. Away from home, that's huge. It's game over. That's like...
We're set.
But it just epitomises everything good about a group. That it's not Tig, and Tig is obviously so important to the team, and it's not Porter, but I can do it too, boys. Finlay Bealham, I can do it. I've arrived. This is me. I want to be part of this, and that goes down incredibly well in a squad, because you're not going to win a series with a team, Joe. You need a group. You need you look at someone like, not even a mention, but how gutting was it for Keith Earls? Imagine the only change, and he's watching that. Yeah. Penny for his thoughts, now he's got to kind of stay on, and hopefully he might get another chance. But these are the kind of, I suppose, the inner workings of a great group.
This is more of a general point. There was a moment in the second half where, on the Irish try line, Pete O'Mahony was getting in the faces a little bit of the New Zealand players, and just that bit of niggle and bit of edge that he can bring. Talking to Keith Wood during the week, we were having a bigger conversation about Irish rugby, and he was saying it's so important to bring through players from all over the country, different backgrounds. Like Keith used the word, like he wants farmers in the team, as well. He wants all the many kind of disparate personality types that make up Irish sport, I suppose. You're a very modern day coach, and you talk about the data and you talk about evidence, and you taking emotion out of it at times. But is it still for you very important when you see an O'Mahony in there who brings an edge, who is not afraid to get in their faces a bit when play has stopped? As a coach, is that as important as ever in your view in the modern game?
Oh yeah, it is. It's so important, I think, and I think it's more important if it's natural and authentic, which we have to say is the case with Peter O'Mahony. It's not an act. Yeah. That's his normal personality. And I think that's very important, because that would have been passed from probably, Golov, Woody, to O'Connell, to Quinlan. They'd pass it on to O'Mahony. O'Mahony would be trying to pass it on to, the new breed in the Munster block that are coming through as well. But it's the same with Sean O'Brien. That's exactly what he stood for. Presence in the back row is absolutely huge. You could see there was numerous, I suppose, moments in the game when you either give energy to your team or you take energy from your team, and you've got to, I suppose, celebrate that. But I think when it's natural and when it's authentic and when it's necessary. There are some examples in the modern game when it's OTT and it shouldn't be done, but like what was at stake yesterday, I think Peter got the balance perfectly between celebrating the kind of the win in the moment and keeping the bigger picture. He couldn't take a backward step against Cain at that stage. They're attacking the line. The boys are under no circumstances shall they pass and score a try, and basically Peter standing his ground. And it's easy for us watching on the TV, but when you're in the heat of battle and some fella has an all remark, it's natural to chip back at him.
You mentioned Sexton. We've touched on O'Mahony. Who were the best Irish performers, or who caught your eye, or why?
And it's not an opt-out answer, but I thought the collective was very impressive. Sure. I liked I think the intent from Ireland in many aspects. I love the fact that during the week Paul was disappointed with the set piece, and that's not good enough by us. And then this is what we do Monday to Friday, and this is what we produce on a Saturday. Obviously, I'd be particularly pleased for how the set piece went. But I think it genuinely was a 23-man effort. You look at the impact Bundyaki, I think him knocking over people, coming off the bench, the impact of the front row. It was a very, very commanding performance, because I actually genuinely believe, I think there's another gear or two in their phase game. I think Ireland will get huge confidence from the fact they'll have images to refer back to about holding the ball and seeing, like, if this is what we do, because it brings into the arena the debate about the man watching versus ball watching. How many times is Ricky Oney at 13 caught from watching the man and the ball going in behind him, which is the biggest probably difference between the Northern Hemisphere and the Southern Hemisphere, the man watching in the Southern Hemisphere as opposed to the ball watching in the Northern Hemisphere. And Ireland manipulated them really well in that regard. So, I think where Ireland have a huge advantage at the minute, it might be in the game management understanding about how we set up teams to break them down.
Well, if there is an inclination in the New Zealand camp to watch the man, then Ireland can have real joy there, because certainly even first 15-20 minutes in particular, and it is Sexton to the fore, and he's never far from the centrepiece of the conversation. But there are times where Ireland have pods here and pods there, and options short and options out the back, and people going at different angles. It looks fantastic. I mean, it really does look as good as anything you'd see.
Yeah, exactly, Joe. I think just to, I suppose, emphasise that where absolute consternation occurs if half of the All Blacks watch the man and half of them watch the ball. But both systems work, but you got to be doing everything. Everyone has to be connected and doing the same thing. So it's not to say one system is better than the other. It just it's an interesting development. I feel that's I suppose coming into the game, but you can also see the kind of how breaking habits is difficult when you're under the pump in a test match and you're being manipulated by Johnny Sexton. So
you sense some of them are watching man and some of them are watching ball, two different systems at times?
The traditional system most definitely will be watching the man, but I think from my time with the Crusaders, so many of them enjoyed actually watching the ball and the benefits you get from that. But when you're on the outside, you're not, I suppose, au fait with the conversations going on, but it's a fascinating development.
The last question I had really was who, setting odds aside or whatever, who do you make favourites for next Saturday, third test?
A great question. I think for me, it's a scratch game. You look at what happened in the first test. Ireland, I suppose, bitterly disappointed with the performance. I think Ireland will be happy with the performance yesterday, but I think they take huge confidence from the fact that I think they know they have another gear or two to hit with the players they have. What they will not want to do is give New Zealand the lead or momentum, and then they become a very different side. But you get New Zealand, this current team, into an arm wrestle, and it's very, very possible.
Well, it should be a cracker. Listen, we've taken up enough of your time. The tan is coming along very nicely. I can hear the seaside in the background. Think of us stuck in the office today. You're living the dream. Enjoy the break, actually. Well earned, I'm sure.
Come on. Thanks, Joe.
See ya.